Hey guys, today I'm going to be reacting to a video called What Americans Don't Understand About Europe. I'm super curious to see what this is actually all about, so let's check it out.
I've noticed an increasingly negative attitude of US Americans to Europeans, and the other way around. It makes me sad because I think there's much to admire in both America and Europe. So today I want to talk a little about what I think is going on and what we have in common and what not. A lot of the US-European kerfuffle is friendly, and you find it in memes like "the European mind can't comprehend this," posted by Americans, featuring SUVs, highway junctions, or oversized meals and drinks. Crazy. In return, we have the retaliation. The American mind can't comprehend this. The metric system, walls of public bathroom stalls that have gaps at the bottom, and garbage separation. Speaking of garbage, in case you missed it, 2 months ago, New York City introduced garbage bins. My European mind can't comprehend this. Of course, the American-European rub isn't a new thing. Georges Clemenceau, who was Prime Minister of France more than a century ago, said, "America is the only nation in history which miraculously has gone directly from barbarism to degeneration without the usual interval of civilization."
Wow, those are some harsh words.
The Irish playwright George Bernard Shaw, the 100% American is 99% idiot.
Oh my God, they're
Churchill allegedly said that Americans can always be trusted to do the right thing once all other possibilities have been exhausted. Americans haven't been any friendlier to Europeans. The American comedian Jackie Mason quipped that England is the only country in the world where the food is more dangerous than the Bette Midler declared that when it's 3 o'clock in New York, it's still 1938 in London.
Oh my God,
the American author and journalist P.J. O'Rourke said that you can always reason with a German. You can always reason with a barnyard animal too, for all the good it does.
Wow.
All good fun. But we also have many Europeans who think Americans are just stupid to accept living in the conditions that they do. That judgment has become especially pronounced since the first Trump presidency. And I'm laughing at Trump supporters. People that stupid shouldn't be allowed to vote. That's a quote from a young Dutch person.
Oh my God,
I can tell you from my own experience that among the Europeans I know, this attitude is extremely common. You don't have to take my word for it, because by the blessing that's YouTube, we have footage of a young American who asked Europeans what they think of Americans.
They're going to think they're stupid.
Are you also German?
Yes, I am.
And in Germany, you feel like German people have a positive view of Americans?
No.
Not really.
No, okay, so negative.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you feel that there's been a change at all in terms of how Americans are viewed, like in the last 10, 15 years?
I think so, yes. Especially due to the Trump and the Tea Party things happening. It got more polarized, that made it more negative in my view.
This is from before the recent US election, but I don't think the situation is much improved.
Absolutely not.
In return, many Americans likewise think Europeans are stupid to accept living in the conditions that they do. An opinion that seems to be mostly based on the economic superiority of the United States, or the higher income you can make in some professions, or the high taxes we pay in Europe. I encounter this attitude on X, Twitter, all the time. The reason this makes me unhappy is that it presumes people in other countries must share our values. I've lived for some years in the United States, and I believe that Americans just have different values than Europeans. We each have a different idea of what makes for a good life. And it makes no sense that we try to impose our values on each other. Have a look at this podium discussion. Can you spot the American among the Swedes? Somewhat more seriously, many Americans, for example, think of freedom as individual autonomy, guns being left alone by the government, and being able to say what they want without limitations. This is why they're skeptical of the idea to make health insurance mandatory, don't think much of social welfare programs, and constantly complain about censorship. They've grown up learning that if you want to be successful, you need to take risks. They've grown up learning that failure is a normal part of life and an opportunity to learn. They've grown up learning to value independence. Europeans, on the other hand, are more likely to associate freedom with social security.
That's interesting.
They want to be free to pursue their interests without having to worry about, say, being indebted for the rest of their life because they wanted to study physics, having to ask for donations to pay their cancer treatment, or getting shot at the mall. In Europe, we tend to see universal healthcare, tuition-free education, and unemployment benefits as the basis of individual liberty. Yeah. We accept higher taxes and regulations as protections from systemic risks like poverty or illness, and most of us agree that one person's free speech ends when it endangers another person's safety or dignity. We've grown up learning that bad fortune can hit anyone. Absolutely. We've grown up learning that we're stronger together. We've grown up learning to think before acting. Yes, these are terrible stereotypes, and I apologize profoundly to all Americans and Europeans who feel misrepresented, which will be all of you, I guess.
Yeah, this is going to offend people either way.
We all have some sympathy for both perspectives, like just among you and I agree that our taxes are too high. But by my own experience, I think that on average, these stereotypes are largely true. I believe that our different values go back to our different historical trajectories. The USA was built by rebels who fled from tyranny. Then they ended up in the awkward situation of needing a government for people who don't want to be governed. And that's basically still the situation today. Europe, on the other hand, had kings and monarchs for millennia, and then saw the emergence of a strong labor movement, which only grew stronger after the First and Second World War. This is why we have such strong labor unions, which prevent a lot of the financial exploitation that's possible in the United States. And these fundamental differences reflect in the way that we deal with business developments. Americans tend to think that Europe's overregulated and slow and too risk-averse. They're right. And Europeans tend to think that in the United States, rich people make the poor poorer by burning money in overly risky investments. They're also right. A good way to see how these cultural differences result in economic differences is this graph. It compares labor productivity in the EU with that in the US. You can see that the productivity per capita in the EU has grown far less in the past decades, and I understand that Americans are proud of their achievement.
Yeah, of course.
But if you dig into the details, the reason for the discrepancy is that Europeans on average work fewer hours. You can see this if you normalize this productivity by the number of hours worked, then the curves look almost identical. What does this mean? I think it means that Europeans don't care a lot about the GPU. At least I don't. If an American comes to me boasting about how high the US GPT is, or how many billionaires are Americans, or how many big companies are owned by Americans,
how about you?
All I can say is, well, and what do you get out of it? Are you happy that you made the rich people even richer?
Yeah, you're not getting the benefits.
Yes, that's fine with me, and I respect that. But it's not a system that I would feel comfortable in, and I hope that you can respect that too. And that basically is the message of this video. I wish that we all had more respect for how people in other cultures choose to live their lives. Americans aren't stupid because they voted for Trump, and Europeans aren't stupid because they pay high taxes. We just do things differently. I very much admire the American entrepreneurial spirit, their willingness to take risks, and their independence. But I also think it's good that we don't all do things the same way.
Absolutely.
I follow the news both in Europe and America, and that's become so much easier since I use Ground News. So let me tell you something about them. Ground News is a news platform that collects and summarizes news which has been published all over the world. Not only do they collect all articles on the same story in one place and give you a quick summary, they also give you a lot of extra information that you don't find find in the standard media, and it's really saved me so much time. Take, for example, the recent news that the US has terminated support for Ukraine's energy grid restoration. You see right away that this news has been much more covered by the political right than by the left, which is really curious, isn't it? You also get a factuality rating for each news item, and it tells you whom the media outlets are owned by and where the news has appeared. You can also switch between a focus on US and EU news. Ground News also has this great feature called Blind Spot. This tells you which news has been almost exclusively covered only by one side of the political spectrum. And of course, I have a special offer for you. That's a 40% discount on the Vantage plan, which gives you access to all their features. All you need to do is use my link ground.news/Sabine or use the QR code so they'll know I sent you. I really think that Ground News is onto something with their news overview, so go and have a look. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, I really like this video. I think she made some great points. I think the best example, like, I think the whole video can be summarized into, like, when what you said at the end of, like, hopefully, like, no one's stupider just because they do things, like, different. It's just the way that the cultures, like, they're different cultures, they work in different ways. And I think when you start, like, thinking about this, or maybe if you, like, meet someone that has, like, a complete opposite, like, political view of like what you think, of what you do, or what, I don't know, your thought, or how you live your life, just someone that has, like, different values. I think the like, probably the most normal, I think, reaction is just to go and say, like, oh, no, like, you want to change their minds. And not just that, but I think it's, well, after a bit of debate, obviously no one's going to change their mind. They're not going to change theirs. And they're also trying to think they're the same thing. They're trying to make you change your mind. And at the end, like, both, they're going to be like, okay, well, there's, it's a standoff, like, you're not going to change, I'm not going to change. And then they're just left. And maybe when they go tell their friends, or when they're thinking about this, they're going to be thinking, oh, like, this person, it's such an idiot. Like, they're so stupid. They're not smart, because how come they can't think of, like, this and this and that? And the other person is going to be thinking exactly the same thing. Like, oh, they're so stupid because, they can't see, like, the whole facts. They don't see the real picture. They don't see the complete picture. They are not thinking about this, etc. And it's like, yes, of course, both parties are going to be thinking that. And it's just like, they're going to be thinking the other is not really doing enough thinking. They're not, they're not going about things in a smart way. And I like that it's just like, no, it's not that the other one is just not that smart. It's a little bit, oh, like, they're stupider or something. It's just that the way that their minds work are going to be different because they are used to certain things. And of course, if they're not used to those things, and there are things that are very different from what you think because you grew up in a different culture as theirs, then of course they're not going to relate. They're not going to be thinking like, oh, no, like, this is shift. I think you need to be like, maybe it doesn't really mean that you can't really change it along the way and with life and with years and whatever, because people just have a change of heart. Maybe they'll move somewhere else. Maybe they'll experience something in their own lives that's going to make them, like, change, like, their way of thinking. But usually, unless they go through that, they're just going to be stuck in that mindset. And unless there's, like, a paradigm like shift, and that changes, then of course, it's kind of pointless arguing or saying, like, the other one, oh my god, they're idiots. It's like, no, I mean, you can sort of, like, make fun of it and be like, oh, idiots, but in a real kind of, like, way, and in a serious kind of matter, like, yes, I get what she means. It's not just that the other one is not thinking. It's not that they're not intellectually, like, developed enough. It's just that they do things different in different parts of the world. And like she said, that's a good thing, because, who would want to live in a world where everything, it's like, it's a monolith and everything, it's the same way. It's like, no, of course not. You're not a robot. Like, it's good that people in different countries around the world do things in a different way, because it means that maybe you can find something that adapts to what you think, or your own, like, way of thinking. Like, you can just move, which I think it's a good thing. And, again, it's good that you have like different ways of thinking that obviously enriches people, that enriches culture, that enriches the world and humanity and civilization. So it is a good thing, even though maybe it doesn't really seem like that. I do think it's a good thing because again, it's like, even if you think that, oh, the other one is just like bad or whatever, it's like, no, because those shifts and those changes in culture and the way the whole idea and the whole concept of people doing things different to what they do like in your country, it means that they're gonna have like different strengths maybe, because even though like their weakness are not gonna be the same and their strengths are not gonna be the same either. So it's a good thing because maybe they can develop different areas that your own country doesn't really develop, because there's like a little bit of something of a weak point maybe. So again, it's a good thing. But it is, seeing it like that, it's funny that they're both like, they're so like opposite maybe in a way, that they both think like Europeans think that, people in the United States are like, oh, they're so stupid, they're so dumb. And the Americans are thinking, oh, Europeans are so stupid. It's like they both think that the other is just like doing things and going about things, in an incorrect way. Because again, they also think like my way is the best way. It's like not necessarily. There's both advantages to one system and there's disadvantages, and the other one, it's the same. It has advantages, it also has disadvantages. And again, those are good things. But it's funny to think like they're like what she said about the economic, like the productivity, for instance, is like, oh, it's not necessarily like you think about, the United States is just like a global superpower. They have like this great economy. But it's like, yeah, but look at this, like Europe works, they work fewer hours, but if you adjust the whole thing, like they work like the same. So it is like, that's quite interesting. But again, those points can be debated, just as the one of like, yes, of course they have like free healthcare and free education. And even though they agree, yes, maybe we pay a lot of taxes, we are seeing the benefits, we're reaping the benefits, which is a good thing. But of course, people in the United States think like, oh no, like those taxes are way too high, and we have like billionaires. But it's funny that she's like, yes, from my perspective, it's like, yeah, but what does like, okay, so you have a lot of billionaires. Are you seeing like, are you reaping those benefits? It's like, are you a millionaire? Are you a billionaire? It's like, well, no. So it's like, what would I care if this country has that? But I think that's also part of like the American dream, that thinks that yes, if you work hard, like nothing is impossible. And if you work hard enough, maybe you can also achieve that. Maybe if you strike out, and if you're lucky, then maybe one day you can also become a billionaire or a millionaire. So again, it's like, it's different things. It's like one different strokes for different folks, as they say. And I like that. Yes, I think to get the full picture, it's a good thing that maybe you have to live in both places to actually experience culture and experience life and the lifestyle in both places, to actually really do understand. And maybe you come to a conclusion at the end of maybe not just what's better or what's worse, because again, that's very subjective, but what system adapts better to your own lifestyle, your own beliefs, and your own like way of life. I think that's just how it is. And instead of again being all like, oh, I have to like say that, I have to think of like, oh no, but you're an idiot, like why are you doing this? Or maybe they're insulting each other, or they're like thinking that. No, it's just like, again, it's just be a little bit more open-minded and think that no one, just as you can't really relate like 100% to another person's like life, because they haven't lived like your experiences, and they, as much as you can put yourself in like someone else's shoes, like at the end of the day, of course, unless you have lived like the same different, like you have gone through the same experiences, it's going to be a little bit hard. And imagine this, even people in your own country, like it's a little bit hard to actually relate to like 100% to their lifestyle or their way of thinking, because again, maybe they have different experiences. Imagine like someone from a different continent, like it's gonna be very hard. So again, maybe that's why you should be a little bit more open-minded and think that, people live different lifestyle, they have like different cultures, they were raised by different people. Like there's like so many things that go into like the system of beliefs that a person has, that maybe instead of like debating and trying to change, maybe be a little bit more open-minded, listen to each other, and maybe, again, maybe you're not going to make anyone change their mind, but maybe you're going to understand what they're coming from and what they actually like think that way. But yes, that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye!